not what Marcellus Wallace looks like.
Does he look like a
Does he look like a what?
Pause. No, we have another crime here. So this can actually be an attempted murder. Because he shot him at close range with a firearm. Although he was shot in the arm, the intent was a serious physical injury. A person can bleed out and bleed to death. If a person is shot with a bullet, it's nothing for the bullet to bounce off a one bone, hit an artery, and cause you death. So just the mere fact of you should know that you can cause a serious physical injury or death by shooting someone, it would amount to an attempted murder.
Why you fucking like man?
Yes, you did!
Yes, you
did!
Royale with cheese.
Bad I'ma get medieval on your ass.
Comfortable silence.
Well, the first crime starts when he shoots the guy when he's on the bed, on the couch. So you don't even got to show it to me. I've seen this movie hundreds of times. In essence, I know the script. My name is Darrin Porcher. I worked at the NYPD for 20 years. I trained recruits. I locked a lot of people up. I investigated a lot of crimes. I'm currently a criminal justice expert, and I testify in trials all over the country. Today, I'm going to be watching Pulp Fiction, and I'm going to pause it at any point that I see a crime.
How you boys doing? You know who we are? We're associates of your business partner. Looks like me and Vincent caught you boys at breakfast.
At this stage, there's no crime committed because they let him into the apartment. Vincent and Jules, those are the two actors, that being Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta, they walk in, and so in essence, it's just a dialogue. Although we know that there's an intimidating presence, but they were never told to leave or anything to that effect. So at this point, there's no crime that's been committed.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France? Tell them, Vincent.
Royale with cheese.
You know why they call it that?
Because of the metric system?
Check out the big brain on bread.
I know this
smart
thing.
That's right. Vincent, we happy?
I've never in my professional experience seen an instance where there was a case that someone had and that was the preface to a crime. Up to this point, we still don't have a crime that's committed. Samuel L. Jackson or Jules, he says, hey, look, where is it? He says, okay, this is where it is. There's no one that says, no, you can't take this.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
My name's Pitt.
And you ain't
Your
talking
ass
your
ain't talking your way
way
out.
out of this.
We got into this thing with the best intentions, really. I never...
Pause. Okay, now we have a crime that's committed. Intent to cause a serious physical injury, and he causes it. He actually kills the guy when he shoots him in there. So we have a homicide off the bat here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Highly unlikely that the next door neighbor will call up and say that, hey, look, you know what, I heard a gunshot. When you watch television, it's very sensationalized when you hear gunshots. So one that lives in a multiple dwelling like what we see in this video could deem it as, hey, it's something that they're watching on television or even a firecracker. If you have multiple shots, when you have several volleys of shots, then that may lend credence to someone calling and saying, hey, look, I hear some shots. But just the one shot in itself,
To me, he better paralyze my ass.
also, if it was in a hallway, the hallway, you have far more amplification than you would in an actual apartment. The reverberation in the hallway is going to amplify the sound of the gunshot.
What's the matter? Oh, you were finished.
Okay, what's happening now is Jules is holding a firearm and he's speaking to the individual that's seated. So it's clear that there's a level of intimidation that's present. So we have menacing. Although the gun is not pointed at the individual sitting in the chair, we clearly have menacing because one, Jules just shot someone. Two, he knows that there's a dispute. When I say he, meaning the individual sitting in the chair, knows that there's a dispute amongst the two. So we have menacing at this stage.
What? English? Do you speak it?
Menacing is the intent to intimidate someone by force. Me holding my fist in front of someone's face and saying, you know what? I would love to just punch you in the face. And I'm not telling you that I'm gonna punch you in the face, but I would just love to punch you in the face. That's clearly putting you in fear of a physical injury based on me standing in front of you with my fist pumped. So that's what we have menacing. Here we have Jules that's holding a semi-automatic firearm at his side. So this is clearly a case of menacing.
What?
What country you from?
What?
The table was tipped over. Now we have a situation where you're destroying property. So we now have a criminal mischief. Because you dumped the table over, there were things all over the table.
What? Say what again? Say what again?
Well, I mean, off the bat, I would think that this is an illegal firearm. During California at the time. So you have to take in consideration gun laws in California. It's more likely that this is an unlicensed firearm because Los Angeles, where they are in this particular scene, has some of the toughest gun laws in the country. We think about New York, Chicago, and LA. They have the toughest handgun laws in the country.
Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like.
Does he look like a...
Does he look like a... What?
Pause. Now we have another crime here. So this can actually be an attempted murder. Because he shot him at close range with a firearm. Although he was shot in the arm, the intent was a serious physical injury. A person can bleed out and bleed to death. If a person is shot with a bullet, it's nothing for the bullet to bounce off a one bone, hit an artery, and cause you death. So just the mere fact of you should know that you can cause a serious physical injury or death by shooting someone, it would amount to an attempted murder.
Why you try to him like Brett?
Yes, you did!
Yes,
you did! We have an additional aspect of menacing because we also have John Travolta, who's Vincent, that's standing behind the victim, and he has his firearm displayed as well. So we have 2 counts of menacing.
You read the Bible, Brett. Oh, there's this passage I got memorized.
And I am the Lord, and I will strike down he. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance.
The Bible verse would connect to an aspect of intimidation or menacing based on the words that are used in this particular verse. He says, I will strike down thee with great vengeance, and then you will know that I am the Lord. And that's when he displays the firearm.
When I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Okay, we have a clear homicide. We have the 2 actors. They intend to kill this guy and they kill him. And that's what we see. We have another individual that has a firearm in another room. That individual hears what's going on. Now, I don't know if that gun is licensed or unlicensed, but when you have a gun inside of a residence, it's usually not a felony, it's a misdemeanor. And the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony is this. A misdemeanor, you can face a term of incarceration up to and including 1 year. A felony would be something that you could be sentenced to incarceration which exceeds 1 year. And so we have this individual that comes out and fires. And after he does that, he misses. That is not a crime because if you're in the house and you're using this firearm for personal protection as defense, not an offense, then it's not a crime. So what we do have at max with the individual that's firing the weapon is merely the gun possession misdemeanor because it's in the house. Pause. Jules and Vincent, they fire back, shoot, and kill him. That would be a felony because they're in the midst of committing a crime and they kill someone. Remember, Jules and Vincent just killed 2 people in that room. So in essence, Jules and Vincent have committed, we have the first person that was killed that was on the couch. We have the second person that was killed that was sitting in the chair. And we now have the third person that came out of the back room. So they committed 3 homicides as they were in this apartment. What the prosecutor is going to have to determine was this overly egregious. The person that was sitting in the chair and he was shot 1 time in the shoulder. And let's say he died in that particular case. You could still charge Vincent and Jules with the homicide. But if you continuously shot this person over and over and over again, it's just going to increase the degree of the homicide. So we can go from a murder 2nd degree to a murder 1st degree. When we have murder 1st degree, it's premeditated. I'm gonna go and kill this person and I go and kill him. You can premeditate something in 2 seconds. So as you're running up the street and you're chasing a person, in your mind you say, look, I'm gonna kill this guy because I've been running too long. You shoot him and kill him. That's a murder 1st degree. Of course. Okay, Uma Thurman's character has ingested heroin that John Travolta, meaning Vincent's character, had. Now, Vincent in this situation can still be held accountable legally because he had a duty to provide care, custody, and control over the drugs that he brought into that house. Uma Thurman's character believed that this was cocaine, and in actuality, it was heroin. So she wouldn't have ingested it the way that she did. But that's not her fault. It's Vincent's fault because it was Vincent that brought the drugs into that house. So Vincent can be charged with a felony in this particular case. At minimum, because she lived, we have the reckless endangerment felony, because this had the propensity to cause her death.
Have you seen this sort of thing in your career?
Numerous times. This happens a lot of times with kids. You have the adults that have drugs in a residence, and then one of the kids happens to pick up one of the drugs and ingest it, and they die based on an overdose. It happens quite frequently. Sad but true.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't know if Vincent was ingesting drugs. We only saw Uma Thurman's character ingesting drugs. So if Vincent was ingesting drugs, then we have a situation where she's driving under the influence. But we don't show that in the movie. So as it stands at this point, we merely have a vehicle and traffic law violation because of the reckless nature in how he's driving on the road. If you identify a person is in need of medical aid, you are responsible for getting that person medical aid. You have a multitude of different people outside of a hospital that can administer care. It can be a nurse, an EMS worker that you know. And the reason being is I felt that this was the quickest source of medical aid than me driving someone to the hospital or waiting for an ambulance.
You take off her shirt and find her heart.
Her shot in the heart. I guess it's gotta be.
Okay, what we have here are people that are unlicensed performing a procedure that they should be licensed for. We do have a reckless endangerment. You disregarded the risk that can cause someone a serious physical injury or death, that being using the injectable and placing it into someone's chest.
I never done this before. I ain't never done it before either, all right? I ain't starting now.
If you're wrong, you hit the heart, you kill the person. He can be criminally charged.
1,
2.
We oftentimes have people that perform breast augments or butt augments that are not licensed, and they get charged criminally. This is no different.
Look, I'm telling Marcellus today, I'm through.
Marvin, what do you make of all this?
Okay, he's taken against his will.
Come on.
So based on him being taken against his will, we now have a kidnapping.
Well, you gotta have an opinion. I mean, do you think that...
Pause. He accidentally shoots and kills the guy in the back seat, but it would still go down as a murder second degree because we have something we refer to as a depraved indifference, meaning you should have perceived the risk. The risk was blatantly obvious. Vincent holding a firearm and pointing it at the individual in the back seat, and so when the car hit the bump, the gun went off.
I didn't mean to do it was an accident.
Yes, it was an accident, but you should have perceived the risk, so we still have a murder second degree. Okay, Bruce Willis is on the run from Marcellus. Marcellus is the kingpin crime figure in this movie. So Marcellus sends one of his hitmen, which is Vincent, aka John Travolta. John Travolta's in the bathroom, but John Travolta leaves an automatic weapon on the counter. Bruce Willis is in the apartment lawfully. However, Vincent illegally entered that apartment. So what we have now is a burglary. Vincent entered the apartment with the intent to commit a crime. And so that would be a burglary. And then we have a situation where Vincent comes out of the bathroom and the toaster goes off. Butch has not committed a crime because this is self-defense. Butch didn't bring that firearm into that house. He shoots, kills him, and he's defending himself. So, in synopsis, Butch did not commit a crime, Vincent did.
I mean, the way it is now, taking the same risk as when you rob a bank.
Pause. This is a planned robbery. We have a male and a female that plan to do a robbery in this diner. So that in itself is going to constitute being a felony.
And is just the intent to rob a crime? Like,
Yes, it is. Let's say you have a police informant that's part of a criminal enterprise, and that police informant hears that these individuals that are part of this criminal enterprise are looking to rob a bank. They're in the car, and they have their guns, and they're on their way to the bank, and then the police come and stop them. It would still be an attempted robbery.
And no more liquor stores?
Nobody ever robs restaurants.
I have never dealt with someone that robbed a diner or a restaurant. Not that it hasn't happened before, but that's not as likely in a place like New York compared to a place in the Midwest. There are other options that you have here to get cash. So you can go to a gas station, you can go to a liquor store. When you're robbing a place like a diner, there's a lot of unknowns that you're dealing with. You have entrances and exits that need to be covered, and it's just very exhaustive if you're the person that's actually looking to commit a crime of that magnitude. So it's much better if you go and you rob an establishment that you perceive is going to have one person behind the counter, maybe two, would be much easier for you to control than a diner that consists of 40 or 50 people.
Bars, liquor stores, gas stations. You get your head blown off sticking at one of them. Restaurants, you catch with their pants down.
It doesn't matter if you're robbing the morgue, if you're robbing a person in the street, if you're robbing in a bank, it's basically one and the same on the count of robbery. Now, the property that you take is going to escalate how much time you'll be convicted of.
Last liquor store we stuck up, remember? You got the idea, taking their wallets. A lot of people come to restaurants.
A lot of wallets.
Each person they're taking a wallet from that they're telling to place this wallet in a bag constitutes one count of robbery. So you count that up for the number of people that are in that diner, and that's how you have the several counts of robbery. If you rob one person, you're going to get less time than if you rob 6 people.
Same as last time, remember?
In Los Angeles, just the mere possession of a firearm in public would constitute that of being a felony.
everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Okay, pause. Okay, right now we have a robbery. This was something that was preconceived or premeditated. We have a firearm that's brandished, and then we have threats that are being introduced by the woman. If you move, you'll be executed. Okay, so we have menacing, and we also have a robbery. And depending upon the number of people that gave up their wallets, that would be the number of counts that we have for robbery in this particular case.
All right, people! Gonna come around and collect your wallets!
I don't have nothing on me, man. In the bag. In the bag.
All right, pause. Okay, interestingly enough, Jules is the victim of a robbery here. So what Jules does now is when the individual lunges forward, Jules pulls a gun. And now the initial robber is now become a victim, but really not, because he's actually protecting and defending himself. The white male would be the only person charged with robbery in this case, not Jules. And so the argument may be, well, look, you know what? Jules has an unlicensed handgun. We could still charge Jules with that unlicensed handgun, but Jules would not be charged with a robbery in this situation. I have heard of things like this happening before with a person that was trained in martial arts that was approached by an individual that tried to rob them. And that individual that was trained in martial arts was able to turn the tables because they were able to rotate their wrist a certain way and disarm the individual. So I have heard of things like this happening.
Vincent? Be cool!
Vincent is one and the same as Jules because this is a robbery that's being committed. So what they're doing is they're defending and protecting themselves from a robbery that's occurring. Those things do happen from time to time, mainly when you have two gangs that meet up with one another. They will at times have those quote unquote standoffs. Doesn't happen much, but it does happen from time to time.
I think we should be lenient.
How was this experience to use your knowledge against Pulp Fiction?
I mean, it was easy for me because oftentimes when I watch cinema, I always go through my thought process as to what I see is right, what I see is wrong, how would I approach it? And that's the same holds true when I walk down the street. It's just so much a part of my DNA that I just kind of can't get away from it.
Say goodnight, Raquel.
Good night, Raquel.
Yeah, it's just legal now, right?
Yeah, it's legal, but it ain't 100% legal.
When Vincent went to Amsterdam, pot was legalized, and you have to bear in mind, this was something that was done in the 90s. A lot of what Vincent is saying has come to fruition and true in the United States now.